Hey everyone, we are back. We are just after finishing up our Silent Hill Countdown series. The last video that we uploaded was PT, or How to Market a Game. That was a little playable teaser that Hideo Kojima did. We're working on our next video now, which is actually focusing on Hideo Kojima himself. We don't want to go into too much detail on it, but we're kind of in the middle of doing some research for that at the moment. So we decided we're going to introduce a new sort of series idea thing here, where basically me and Michael argue over games, which will be a lot of fun. Say hello, Michael.
That was a great introduction, Steve.
Wasn't it though?
Thanks very much for that.
So basically, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to take a game that I know Michael hasn't played and try and convince him that he should play it. And he's going to take a game that he knows I haven't played and he's going to try and convince me that I should play it. And we want to have a bit of banter about how great our respective games are. And I think Michael would like to go first. Wouldn't you, Michael?
Yeah, definitely. So the first game, the game I've decided that I want you to try and play is Urban Chaos.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Not many people have.
So why should I play this game that I've never heard of?
Why indeed? I guess the main thing to say about Urban Chaos is that it was sort of groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Okay. Like the main people, or the main thing people latch onto, is that it was one of the first really open world city games that did it in that sort of style, like 3D.
It's on the PlayStation Network, isn't it?
I'm not sure. It's PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast game originally.
Oh, I think I saw it on the PlayStation Network. It's an open world game.
Open world game. So almost like a proto GTA. GTA 3 came out 2 years later, and Driver 2 came out a year later. This was released in 1999. Excuse me, I just burped straight into the microphone.
I didn't know Driver 2 was actually an open world game. I was never really that big into those games.
Driver 2 was sort of, you could get out of a car and run around. I'm not sure you could shoot even, but it was very janky. Like the driving and all in Driver obviously was very good, but...
Do you know what I remember from Driver? Do you know the opening level in Driver 1?
The tutorial.
That's roughly as far as I got with Driver. Yeah, sorry, going off on a tangent there.
No, a lot of people got stuck on that level. Yeah.
That's like trying to pass your driving test, really, isn't it?
Oh, hitting an open room there, yeah. So it had this open world. So basically, like it's not a huge, like it's PS1, so like it's obviously not going to be a huge area, and the draw distance is worse than Silent Hill 1. Like it's basically like shadow 3 feet in front of you, basically. But for the time, I have to say it did something very good. You could run around, you could interact. There was pedestrians milling around. You could interact with most of them and talk to them. Most of them had voice dialogue. You could arrest people on the street. There's sometimes be random events happening, like crimes being committed, and you can arrest them. You play a cop in the game, if I mention that.
Okay.
Like for example, there's randomly a guy pissing up against a wall in one section of the game. And you can arrest him for whatever crime that is.
Okay.
You know?
Can I ask you an honest question though, right?
Yeah.
If you were to go back and play that now, is it a fun game to actually pick up and play, or is it a little bit of a struggle? Has it dated a little bit?
It's definitely well, like the graphics for the time were amazing, and I think with all old games we sort of have to put ourselves in the mindset of, at the time, how was this, like, with the limitations of hardware. But there's certain graphical elements that are very cool, like so many vehicles going around. There's like leaves and rubbish on the ground that blows around.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Like,
actually,
you know, like it's nothing. I know nowadays that's nothing to us.
No, that's nothing now. But like for PS1, like that's a little detail that you'd never ever see in games. Like I can't think of. I think what was that one? Tenchu might have had that as well, and that's the only other game I can think of that had
just those little atmospheric details that help build it.
Is it a funny game?
Yeah, it's
not now intentionally funny, or
no, it is intentional. It's got, like, in terms of the story and characters and all, it's a weird mix. Half of it is like, okay, so basically starts off, you're a cop and you're chasing this gang called the Wildcats.
Oh, this is 90s, right?
Yeah.
Very 90s. Wildcats.
But but so eventually, like, you're solving murders by them, but eventually it gets a lot darker. Like, the murders get a lot more grisly, and it transforms into almost like a Seven, the David Fincher film Seven type thing, and like where there's like a serial killer or something on the loose. and then it goes into whole like culty sort of prophecy.
It always does with these cop drama things.
I don't think in the 90s they could make anything without a cult or a prophecy being involved.
Or Nike sneakers.
But saying that's taken very seriously. But like the random NPC dialogue and stuff can be very humorous. Like,
how, if you don't mind me asking, how long would it take you if you were to travel from one side of the map to the other in this game?
Probably like 30 seconds.
Oh, really?
Like, well, no, it's not that bad. It's not that small, really. It's just more the visible area around you is very small. But saying that, they did really cool, like especially for the time, like there's lots of buildings you can scale and stuff. Like platforming's a bigger part of it than you'd think. A way bigger part than a lot of modern open world games are. Like one of the best missions, for example, and it's really unique, is an early mission is to talk down a suicide attempt. So there's a guy on top of a building.
That is really cool,
it's
actually.
really cool. Like, they completely play into the cop thing. So there's a guy on top of a building and he wants to jump off. So you go there and you talk to the cops around the scene, and eventually you have to climb on like vents and stuff to get up to the building and zip line over. And like, another thing about the comedic elements in the game, the reason the guy wants to jump off the building is because he wants to be a fireman. And
what?
He didn't
Does he not know, like, day one fireman, don't kill yourself? Like, that's like the first thing they tell you to do.
That's like the first bullet point on every job. Be alive. But like, you resolve it by saying to him, oh, I'm a cop. And then he says, oh, okay, I could be a cop. And then she's like, yeah, okay. And that's the mission, basically.
Wow, hostage negotiations in the 90s were a lot more complex than I gave him credit for.
Yeah.
Do you actually have to go through like dialogue options? Like, is it like a mini puzzle to kind of figure out what to say, or is it
no?
just...
It's not that complicated. It's more get to the area where you need to be. Like, the one thing I'd say about the mission design is it's very varied. Like, every mission you'll be doing, the scenario will be different. Like, it could be a grisly murder, or it could be like a bank robbery or a suicide attempt, like that. They vary up the cases you do, but eventually it devolves into reach the area and initiate a cutscene or kill all the guys.
Right,
like, it's
okay.
like, in gameplay terms, it's pretty simple, but it's more like the world, the atmosphere. You can steal almost any car and drive it around. The driving is janky.
Well, it's gonna be. There's no PS1 game minus Crash Team Racing that doesn't have good driving. No, not a single one.
That's the benchmark. Yeah,
that's the benchmark for good driving games in the PS1.
But and also the gun combat is fairly janky as well. But like, it's just amazing as a snapshot for like. It's such an ambitious game for the time, and it definitely laid the groundwork for a lot of other games that came after it.
Do you know what it sounds like you're describing, even though I know they're completely different games? It kind of sounds a little bit like Siphon Filter.
Not too dissimilar. Siphon Filter was more of a, you're in an urban environment and there's loads of enemies there and you're trying to kill them.
Yeah, they do have a very definite level structure, even though it feels a little bit open world because it takes place on streets and stuff. But yeah.
This is more like, one of the best things about this game is that it completely plays into the cop narrative. So like, you can arrest people, and that's like a really interesting mechanic in the game. If you arrest more people, the general populace will become more positive towards you. So you can start getting like some random NPCs might give you like items or like keys to a car that was locked that you couldn't drive and stuff like that.
That's
like,
cool.
This is really advanced stuff for the time, I think.
I mean, that's something I always associate with Assassin's Creed, because I remember like when that came out first, they always said that, you know, if you help more citizens, crowds would be less likely to block your way and stuff like that. So obviously AI is a lot more intelligent there, but it's cool that, you know, they were reaching for that kind of stuff back in the PS1 days.
Yeah, like making those sort of systems and not just having it as like an empty void open world where you're just running around. Like, that's what the worst thing about Driver 2, not to be ragging on it too much, but it was just a knotting area like that. It was a novelty more than anything that you could run around, you know. The one bad thing, okay, the combat is a little janky, the driving is a little janky, but there's an Irish cop in it with a very, very janky Irish accent.
Okay.
Of course there had to be. Like.
We need to look that up later.
Yeah.
We definitely need to look that up.
But yeah, that's basically Urban Chaos. It did a lot of cool things for the time. I think almost as a historical document or something like that, just to look at how games evolved and how this like especially for when it was released, was so ambitious.
Right.
I think it's an interesting game to play, and I think you genuinely like it just for. It has a very off-kilter sense of humor and doesn't take itself too seriously at times.
I'd be down with that. I have to check that out now, I have to say.
Cool.
All right. Do you mind if I tell you my game that I'd like you to play?
Hit me with that shit.
So I'll tell you, this is a game that I don't think that you've played.
Okay.
It is called... Well, no, actually, no, I know you haven't played, but I don't think you've heard of, actually. And it is called Muramasa, the Demon Blade.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like every 10th game ever made.
Yeah. I know. It's a very generic sounding thing, you know. It's, you know, like, especially because so many games come out of Japan, and it's very easy to hear like any Japanese title and be like, okay, it's kind of like, you know, I got nothing. Unless it says Super Smash Brothers, I don't know. How to describe this game? Do you remember a little while ago I was telling you about a game I wanted to get called Odin Sphere?
Yeah. I vaguely know that. Yeah.
Odin Sphere is done by the same guys. Now, Odin Sphere is the one that everybody knows that this company called Vanillaware did. Wait,
they're called Vanillaware.
Vanillaware.
That's the worst name for a company. Actually, do you know what's worse? Wasn't there a company who made the Simpsons wrestling game? They were called like Big Gorilla or something stupid like that.
Big Gorilla and Vanillaware combining for like Beige Action 2. But Vanillaware, as their moniker says, they're responsible for Odin Sphere, which is kind of their magnum opus. Like everyone always talks about that one because it's a 2D side-scrolling action slash 'em up sort of game. And it's like Odin Sphere, I think, averages about like 20 hours to beat. And it's kind of intimidating. Muramasa is kind of like a beginner's intro to it. And if I was to introduce you to a game, like to get into those kind of games, Muramasa would be the one.
Wait, what was it released on? Like,
it was released on the Wii.
Oh, okay.
But it was also released on the PlayStation Vita, another console you don't own.
Yeah, okay. This is getting easier and easier,
yeah. It was re-released on the Vita with some slightly improved visuals. I played it on the Wii. Yeah, so it's a side-scrolling slash 'em up, and the main thing, the first thing that'll jump out at you is it is a gorgeous game. It is absolutely beautiful to look at. It's set in Japan during the Edo period, so, you know, there's lots of, you know, Buddhist theology and, like, you know, Japanese myth and legend kind of integrated into like the story. And basically the whole idea of it is that what was the story again? It was
it must be memorable.
No, I'm not gonna lie, the story isn't the key aspect of it now. It's all about these these demon blades. I don't remember how many there are. There's something like 3 or 4 of them or something, but like basically anytime anybody uses them, it drives the user insane with bloodlust. And it's summoning all these like demons from hell who are attracted to the blood. All this kind of...
It's always the way, isn't it?
It's very...
With them demon blades.
Oh, they're telling you, like, you know, once you start, like... But yeah, the whole like point of it is like you can play as 2 characters, a girl and a guy, and they have very hard to remember names, which is why I wrote them down somewhere.
Yeah, that sounded Steve opening his
exactly
book.
Yeah. Momohime and Kisuki. Momohime is a lady who is possessed by the spirit of a vengeful Ronin. And Kisuki is an amnesiac ninja, because aren't they always?
Yeah. Ninjas can't remember shit, man.
They are so shit at remembering anything. But basically they have 2 separate storylines and eventually they intersect. But the key thing that I need to... Basically what I'm bringing this down to is the gameplay kicks ass.
So, okay, break it down for me. Like, I get the setting, I get the vibe, but like, is it a side-scrolling action game? Is that what...
It's a side-scrolling... like I'd hesitate to say a beat 'em up, because that implies like Streets of Rage, which is very slow. This is very, very fast. Like, you are jumping up and down all over the screen. There's a lot of verticality as well as like side scrolling to it, like. Yeah. And you do a lot of exploring, and you are fighting these massive monsters. I always remember there was one boss monster. He's like a giant, you know, the dragons, the Japanese dragons, are these like almost snake-like things.
Oh yeah.
You're fighting one of these, but you're jumping on, like, he keeps twisting and turning, so you're jumping on his body and trying to like reach his head to attack him.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
The amount of things going on screen is insane. But the great thing about it is the little details. There's like, it's incredible animation, really fantastic, and you know, it's the backgrounds are absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot of variety to the backgrounds. They have you know, like snow places. They have
lava level
villages. Like there's this really cool moonlit place, and it's like stunning. But the gameplay is great. You can switch between my words are going shit. You can switch between 3 swords, right? And they use this demon power. I'm going to call it demon power. It could be called something soul power or something like that.
Yeah.
But basically, if it uses up all its demon power, the sword breaks. But if you sheath it, then it restores its power. So you're switching between these 3 swords, and all of them are kind of different.
Yeah.
And there's 108 swords that you can collect in the game.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, 108 fucking swords. So like,
that's way too deep for me, man.
No, but it's great though. It's really, really good because like, you really genuinely want to. Like, there's always a better sword out there. Always. Like, I didn't get them all. I got something like 60 or 70 of them. That was it. Finished.
That seems like an interesting mechanic though, having like a breakable weapon and a time limit on them to a certain extent.
See, the thing is, you can get, if I'm remembering it right, you can get like a blueprint on how to make the sword. And if it breaks, you can always make it again, but obviously you have to collect loads of shit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an absolutely brilliant game. Like, it's so much fun. Like, the action is bananas. Like,
yeah, like, and I'm getting the vibe that it's very intense. Like, there's a lot of like Twitch reaction sort of stuff happening.
Yeah, like, I mean, it starts off in it you know what it kind of reminds me of? It's kind of like a 2D Dynasty Warrior sort of thing.
Okay.
Because you know, like at the start of Dynasty Warriors, when you're like, okay, here is a sea of infantry guys who are really easy to kill, and that's kind of how it starts. But then it picks up in difficulty, and soon, like, if you see like 3 guys on like, it starts off, if you see a couple of guys on screen, it's like, oh, this will be easy to kill. But as it progresses and gets harder and harder, you only need to see like 2 guys on screen to think, am I going to get out of this alive? That sort of way.
Okay, that's cool. An interesting ramp up in difficulty there.
And it's got I'm not going to lie, like, the story is a bit, not going to say meh, like, it's very involved, so you're kind of it didn't grip me, but it's fine. There's good scenes in it, like, is the thing. There's a really weird bit, like, every time you beat a major boss and get a demon blade, you go into like a bathhouse, which is a bit weird. And like,
what? Japan?
Yeah,
it's just Japan being Japan.
It's
is it?
A little bit, maybe. That's something we'll investigate in another video. I'm sure.
Yeah,
like,
more to come on that.
But, but yeah, it's fine. It's I will say it's actually quite tasteful. I'll give it that. It's a little odd, but yeah. But there's
maybe you could like say it's like a ceremonial thing, or it's hard to know without seeing it, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the other little thing to mention is they have and I think this might turn you off a little bit, but there's like a cooking mini game.
No, that turns me on, if anything.
But it's a bit like
very hard right now.
You know okay, you can't see this on screen. No,
I'll put up an image, don't worry.
It reminds me of Breath of the Wild's cooking thing, you know, like,
oh,
so
cool,
you can constantly get recipes, and they give you buffs. So like, it can give you extra health, like it might make you invincible to fire, stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones that it shouldn't be as involving as it is, but it is. And I think a lot of that is just the food looks really good, and they look like they're really enjoying it.
Oh my god! Like sorry to go on a tangent. Final Fantasy 15 has a similar mechanic in that you cook, and the graphics and the presentation of the food is amazing. Like, you genuinely get hungry watching it.
Can we have a separate video about food that looks delicious in games?
Oh my god, don't be giving away these gold ideas on cooking.
Tekken Force Mode and Tekken 3. That chicken that's on the ground is just like, bang on. We're going to need to put some footage for people to get that joke.
Millennials.
But yeah, that's my game that I think you should play. It's tons of fun and looks amazing, and it's a good kind of intro to Odin Sphere, which I've heard takes like 40 hours to beat. So like that,
it's more of a beginner's.
Yeah, this is more. I think this took like, it was 15 hours something. So it's kind of more bite size, but fun for it. Like,
okay, cool. Well, you've given me my recommendation, and I've given you yours. Yeah. So now we have to decide whose is better.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, tell me, what did you think of Muramasa from what?
No, yeah, it does sound alluring. I have to say, the only thing I'd say is not a huge side scroller fan, but maybe it's because like I haven't dipped my toe enough in the like I've played Streets of Rage and more modern example Shovel Knight, but apart from that I really haven't got too much into that genre. But like there's plenty, like you can go as deep as you want, like there's stealth games that are side scrolling, you know, stuff like that. So
you know, I kind of feel like this is going to be like something we'll say at the end of every one of these videos. I'm not really big into that particular genre, you know, the Japanese dating sim. Thanks, my hatful boyfriend.
Boyfriend.
That's the key one.
But no, that's what this is about, though. Like getting us outside our comfort zone to a certain extent.
I have to say though, I feel like you'd probably have the better argument with Urban Chaos. That sounds like a real trailblazer.
But saying that your game sounds better, I think Urban Chaos has a lot of things that you've to ignore that are bad.
Yeah, but like it's more relevant. Like I mean. No, I think you are right. Like, I mean, I definitely went for one that's kind of like, this will get you into this genre. This is like an intro, whereas yours is like, this is like a historic kind of game in a way. Like, I mean, Muramasa, there's very little I can say in Muramasa that Odin Sphere doesn't do better. It's just that I really, really like that game. So it's...
I guess they're both more important for what they led to than what they are. You know?
Well, that's the thing. Muramasa came after Odin Sphere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Odin Sphere came out of the PS2.
Oh, Jesus, okay. You're after rocking my complete entire existence now.
Yeah, you guys can't see this on camera, but...
I'm sweating like shit.
Personally, I think your recommendation is probably the better of the two.
Well, yeah, to be honest, I feel like that as well. Urban Chaos is a lot of fun, I have to say. And it's not hard. Well, the enemies are really bastards,
long,
but
how long does it take to beat, actually?
Not long. It's a pretty... that's another flaw, probably. It's a short game. But yeah, okay. Anyone listening?
I'd say Urban Chaos.
Play some Urban Chaos.
Urban Chaos. I mean, play Muramasa too, but but I think Urban Chaos is the guy to go for.
And if anyone's actually heard of either of these games, please comment, because they're pretty. I don't know about Muramasa, but Urban Chaos did not sell well when it came out.
We may check to see if it's on the PlayStation Store. I'm sure there'll be a little disclaimer underneath this now saying yes, it is on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, in the description. We'll let you know in the description. But okay, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll be back with more recommendations
shortly.